gosh, I don't know how old I was, but 2005.
I had one buddy, he was going out with a few girls and needed a wingman to just kind of help get his back because he was a little nervous. And I had my eyes on Christy. I was like, man, like, geez, this girl's funny and cute.
I didn't really talk to him. We're walking down the street, there's a bunch of us friends, and he hears me talking about teaching cycling, and he runs in front and pulls up his pant leg, and he's like, feel my calves. I cycle.
I have pretty good sized calves. I don't know if you have time to show my calves, but at some point I can show you my massive calves. So I use those to my advantage.
And I'm like, that's really weird. No, I'm not gonna feel your calves.
It was a little awkward, but it worked. She was intrigued.
We were like out, and we were just kind of like bar hopping until like 2 in the morning. And he and I are outside of the bar, drinking water, and talking about Kierkegaard and these like crazy philosophers.
That was the beginning of a long journey.
Oh, that I knows you're the one for me, while the world's fleeing.
I now pronounce you husband and wife.
You're all I need.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Christy's pregnant. 1, 2, 3. Christy's pregnant.
We're having a baby.
What?
We're having a baby.
You're shitting me.
We're pregnant. No, I'm not. We're not pregnant. You're lying. Oh my gosh.
You're having a baby? What does that mean? What does that mean to you guys?
Holy crap!
I would say in anticipation of a first child, we were wildly free.
Stick it out.
So I mean, I think there was just like unabandoned play in the whole process. It was like fun to give life.
Andrew and Christy are they get really excited about things, dreaming and imagining. So when they were pregnant, that kid was alive. He had an identity, he had a name, we all felt like we knew him already.
I think the way that they were so anticipatory of their son, like I was connected to that. They live very outwardly, and so I had an attachment to Brave.
I don't know that I've experienced two people more excited to meet their baby.
You know, they would talk about like what he was doing in the womb and like how, you know, like they would have conversations with him, and we all kind of, you know, felt pretty responsive to that.
I was wildly ecstatic, wildly naive, and just wildly hopeful.
My body birthed a baby, and it's like this powerful moment, and then this really futile, like infantile feeling.
I could not believe that he wasn't alive, and I just remember like falling to the ground and just crumbling.
It's like the epitome of everything being so wrong in the midst of something being so right.
I couldn't believe the courage that my wife had in that moment, and I wanted to match her courage and be half as brave as she was.
So I held him in the hospital, which was one of the greatest honors of my life. I remember when Andrew handed him to me, he was like, "You need to remember our son. Like, I'm willing to let you hold this boy, but you have to commit to remembering him."
We kept him in the room with us for 12 hours. It's a little bit crazy holding death that close for that long.
In that moment, neither of us had a choice, right? Like, it wasn't a choice. We had to choose. We had to choose to do death the best we could, whatever that means.
Looking back, if anything, I wish I would have captured all of those moments so I could remember that woman, because she was so free and she was so wild and she was so excited, and I don't think that I can tap into that kind of excitement like I used to. I don't think I'll ever feel that again.
Hey, breakfast, kitty, kitty-os, breakfast. Well, the kids listen to me. 5 seconds to come down or you're all in trouble forever.
No. I see that. It's hot.
Blow on it.
You shoot it and you blow on it.
That's right.
And I'm thirsty too.
Well, how do you ask?
Please.
You know, we had Wilder like a year after we lost Brave, which was soon. And we had so much anxiety. Christy struggled, with some deep anxiety and panic attacks for at least 2 years after. Part of me went back and forth of like struggling with it, but also hiding my own anxiety to try to be strong for Christy. But yet I was so scared too. I was so scared that we were going to lose Wilder. And it's interesting how it's I think it's more particular to Wilder than it even is to Selah, maybe just because of how close we had him from after losing Brave. Sit there, baby. Yeah. Love you guys. I was in my second year of being a private practice therapist when we lost Brave. As I re-entered the work, just kind of allowed clients to engage with me, any questions they had, and just being very open with my heartache and open with my grief, and even giving my clients permission to enter their own stories of heartache and grief. And me honoring my own story, I felt like it even just freed my clients all the more to engage their own.
I think I told you guys the story of working in the oncology unit and women who were getting mastectomies. And I sat with a couple, and the husband just said, I'm still hormonal. I still want sex. My wife doesn't want it. I'm not as attracted to her. Her body has been harmed. She doesn't have breast anymore. What do? I'm not attracted to her. And I'm sitting there like, geez, this is my second year working in the oncology unit, and I'm like, I'm so glad I still have a supervisor because I have no idea what to do, right? I go to my supervisor and I say, what do I do? And she says, the most incredible intimacy is when we enter the wounded place. I'm working with people one-on-one in therapy to kind of free them and to find their voice and help them step into their voice. And in the classroom, I feel the same way. Like I am trying to educate people to then help other people find their voice and step into it. And the only way I've learned to step into my own voice has been to hold and face my own tragedy and my own grief.
If you have come here hoping to be comforted or giving some sort of reassurance that everything is okay somehow, I think you will find yourself dissatisfied today. We are undone. Andrew and Christy are undone.
I've never been through anything like this before. And I love him. I loved helping the nurse give his footprints and his fingerprints. And you can't see it in this picture, but his arms are covered on Wednesday evening, many times you looked me in the eyes, Christy, and you asked me, how am I going to do this? My answer was, I don't know. The truth is, I didn't know. What needed to transpire in the next few days would require courage that I couldn't comprehend, and neither could you. My role, I simply reminded you to put one foot in front of the other. Though it was nearly impossible to stay in the present as you birthed your son, Christy, you did it. With your hands holding the womb where he slept, you spoke to your son often throughout labor. You got this, Brave. You would say as you coached him into this world. And I heard him speak loving encouragement right back to you. We got this, Mama.
It's interesting when I think about how I survived my sorrow. I can only think of stories, images in my head. And I remember we got in the elevator and went to see the ultrasound, and it was the eeriest, emptiest sound because you could see there was no heartbeat right away. And we got in the car and drove to Andy and Lisa's house, and there were people there.
Everybody just kind of ended up coming over to our house. Somehow our house turned into this really sacred just space of lamenting and crying out. And it was this really intense just wailing.
There were so many people there. Like all the people who knew Brave was coming any minute, and they're just weeping. Like no one even said anything to me. Not even a word. Like no one said anything. They just were weeping when I walked in. I didn't want to be alone and get swallowed up by my grief, and somehow their example taught me what mattered. It matters to not be alone. It matters to ask to be loved. It matters to be touched. It matters to have a place to talk about it. Okay. Every day. Run. That's your favorite?
Yeah.
I think we love our kids differently because of how much we lost and how much we didn't get to love Brave in the way we wanted to. I think we just love them really intensely, which I think allows them to feel safely attached to us and more free to be their true selves in a really cool way. Good night, hyena.
Okay, and we're doing a draft and hyena.
Good night. 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 Wow, there's a monkey in my bed.
Your legs wig
A
around.
gorilla in my bed. What does it say?
Pregnant.
I understand that you're calling to schedule a new OB appointment. Is that accurate?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I think I'm more hopeful because we've had a couple successful pregnancies and a couple beautiful kids. And yet there's still something in my heart that's stopping me. that's whispering to me, no, Andrew, don't get excited. Don't hope.
How do you feel?
I feel like it's part of the process, you know? I mean, I just feel like relief doesn't come when, right now, relief will come when I hear a heartbeat, but, I mean, then,
You knew that?
yeah, it's our story. Relief won't come until there's a baby in our arms that's alive and healthy, and that's just how it is for us. The fear of being mocked has come up for me with death. Like there's a sense of when I choose life, the only thing that can mock me is death. And I've had to war that with anxiety, where I either choose to keep living or I become crazy in my anxiety because I'm so fearful of more death. And there's something about being in the midst of a pregnancy that I'm always kind of at the mercy of death mocking me. That's where I think play in life is the only way I can respond.
The minute I get in the car with these women, it's complete ease. I've been at several of their births. I have been in deep grief with them, and your relationships catapult to another level when you've experienced that kind of hardship together and done it well. So to face grief head on and to greet it as you would any other emotion and to spend time with it and to not run from it.
The women who surrounded me taught me how to keep breathing, taught me that ritual is necessary to not go crazy. And I can figure that all out in psychology. It says the same things, but it didn't say it the way doing life with these women said it. They were my teachers.
I think that jacket's gonna fit you. It's a little big, but...
Yeah, but...
You think we should keep it, or should you try on another one?
Keep it.
It's cool. Which way are you going?
I'm going this way.
All right, should we follow you? Should we follow you?
Yeah. Why are you...
Let's go right here. We're just gonna stop by and...
We're just gonna...
There he is. He's a bear.
It's true.
Let me go see.
In the beginning, it feels as if we were visiting the grave multiple times a day.
Want to just be really gentle, respectful.
You couldn't pull me away from the grave. I mean, I was there every day, you know, sometimes multiple times a day.
Okay, jump in. Tell Brave you love him.
It was no longer kind to myself and my own process to go. And then that brings up guilt, like, am I doing enough, or am I loving him enough? And I still wrestle with that at times, and yet in my kinder moments, I think I'm doing what's best for us, for him, for me. I think one of the hardest parts after losing Brave was basically engaging people who didn't understand. They didn't like seeing me hurt. They didn't like seeing me grieve. They didn't like seeing me write blog after blog of heartache, basically sharing my grief. And people wanted to fix me. And yet their ways of helping actually hurt worse. I remember someone wrote me in a short email, and they basically said, you know, I was praying for you, and God told me you were going to have another kid. I got so furious, like, how dare you? Even if it's right, it doesn't matter. Be with me now Feel the pain now of the son I lost. Don't talk to me about a kid I don't know yet. And I couldn't tell you how many people basically didn't know how to engage with me, or just stopped, or just silent, were just cowards. They didn't know what to say, so they said nothing at all. And the pain of silence was worse than the pain of them saying something foolish and stupid. Because we don't know what to say in the midst of heartache. And that's okay. Just say, I have no idea what to say, but can I be with you? And that's enough. And that's what many of my friends did, and many of my friends didn't do.
When you lose something so precious, you don't want to be the one to, you want someone else to talk about it, someone else to bring his name up, just to speak his name out loud, because he's always in me, or always with us, and so it's always there. And so I think, and yet I'm glad to have done enough emotional work to know what I need in the process.
And I think we trust you in that too.
Right.
So it's like I see what the women do and how much they need that, because I mean, even as they have these rituals and memories together, I don't know that they're necessarily directly engaging the memory of Brave, or I mean, I probably sometimes, but it seems like that's not the most important thing.
They're just being with each other. I think whatever they need.
And so there's a way that we're doing that. That's our version of it, that.
Right.
Because I think I could see, if we said, hey, we're going to have a really, intentional kind of ritual time together to remember Brave, that could feel sort of forced or weird for you, or for us, So, it's interesting to think about just what, the basic needs of a grieving man are, or a grieving community of men.
Totally. If you actually feel your grief, you don't actually have a choice.
Right.
You just gotta do what's inside, and yet it's I felt that of gotta be strong, or
you felt that with us?
No, I think just in general, just in regards to living in this world, being a man, having a penis, I've got to somehow be strong, and I can't show my vulnerability or show my weakness in moments of incredible brokenness. And I'm wondering how much that plays out in, I don't know, just our normal engagement. And I think it's unconscious because it's so deep embedded in us.
Yeah.
Part of what I've heard from you guys is that this child of yours is situated in a greater story. The sorrow that you feel for her is different from the sorrow that you felt with the child in the fall and with Brave. This child that you're grieving over, it's just different this time, and that's okay. And that part of what we have to do is remember how this child is connected to the life that's here, to the life that has gone already, to Brave.
We're doing ritual everywhere. However we're engaging in life and however we turn off the intensity of it is where you're doing ritual. As we're gaining in moral loss, our resilience is pretty depleted. We don't have creativity around how to build resilience. So we look to how we regulate it. We look to ritual to see, how do I make sense of that? So I come to you with a body that's broken, that's scarred. And what is it to enter the scar? That is the sacred place. But we don't talk about loss. We don't understand that loss is an invitation to the most sacred place. A lot of your clients won't have creativity for their own bodies and for marking and making meaning of what's happening as loss is increasing. Which is why I want you to study what you were taught. How were you taught to cope? How were you taught to relate? What was regulation like in your own story? And then therefore, what kind of resilience do you have? How do you mark and make meaning of loss? Yeah, good night. I love to listen to my voice now. Before it was really quiet and uncertain and shaky, and now it just feels like that's the best me. And at the end of the day, I rest because it's a good voice. But it's taken a lot to name it good. There's something in doing life with each of you through like the most terrible moments that also like make them, like there's something tenuous and tangible about the moments where we're like just together and just speaking freely and sharing story, being put to sleep and having this baby taken out of me. I'm like disoriented with like I'm grasping for life and I'm grasping to create life wherever I can. And I think I'm tired of being embarrassed and being quiet and being silent. And I'm a grown woman and I think the thing that keeps calling me to is I'm gonna have to teach my daughter. Like she'll carry this story depending on the way that I tell her the story. But I'm learning it too, like for the first time in a way.
Really, it's like in that ancestry that we've been taught to like not tell the story. Mm-hmm. It's like more of a collective story than just you. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like all of our story that we share. And like there's something we're breaking of that cycle when we actually speak.
Yeah. It is part of the gift that we give each other is the collective story of life and grief together, joy and anticipation and suffering, and none is as rich if we don't have all those elements.
Tonight, like in the ritual, it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't even know if I feel anything. Like, I don't want to do this. And yet I'm like, I'm mothering and coaching my own body through what I've watched me have to do with my clients of like, it's going to come up again, Christy. Like, so mark it. Like, walk with your body through it. Teach your body, mother your body through this.
Grief works on its own timetable, and then you have to honor grief, just as you honor the life.
The amount of grief that you allow yourself to experience, I can hardly bear to look at sometimes. I want you to know that like we can hold some of this grief for you, so you don't have to hold it yourself.
I think as I tell this story, or I tell my story, I think of all women and I think of all men who are choosing in their everyday, smallest, most mundane moments to keep breathing and to create something and to create life, even if it's their own life.
Putting my hands with the kids, it's so mundane. We do it, I feel like we do it so often, just like playing in the sand, but I always have this flashback of being brave and feeling like it was my only time to like play with him in the dirt. I replay it in my head and it makes these moments really sacred.
I tried this one before and loved it.
I love your dress. That color's so good on you.
No, I know.
We were just reflecting that the reason we celebrate to the level we celebrate is because of how we've known death. And so I want us to celebrate more and be better at celebration and at marking. And so this is our mark. I feel like this is our celebration of the day that we were both born and brought into this life. And that's how I think Brave's death has marked us. There's many ways, but how we celebrate is particular to how we've grieved.
My dad's an OB-GYN, so I'd seen a lot of pregnant women in my day, but I had never seen two parents so excited, so jovial, and so innocent, and like what could go wrong? Like children, you know, like. And I've also never seen people so crushed.
When we're expecting a baby, we expect to share life. There are certain people's faces that we can't wait to tell. We can't wait to see their joy and their surprise. And those people, when they find out that a baby's coming, they start having these little hopes. They hope with us for hugs before bedtime, or seashell hunts on the beach, or dance parties on the trampoline. I held these hopes for Brave, as I know many of you did too. When instead of life, death came, Christy and Andrew had to come to a crossroads of whether or not to share him, whether or not to share Brave. Because the task of holding and caring for your stillborn son is too great for a mother and father, we took turns holding him, singing to him, and giving him to you, Christy and Andrew, when you asked.
I do not remember my life, a life, this life, with or without Brave. Like, I don't. Something that I always think about was the moment that we went to bury your son. And we saw this machine coming up to put the dirt on top of him. And we all knew that was our job. We will bury him. This is our work. No matter how tired, no matter how broken you all were, how exhausted, this is still the work. You make visible what I want so much to be invisible.
Your marriage, it was hard to watch you guys grieve differently and throw grief at each other and anger at, you know, and it was so hard. And there was more anger for me because of what you guys used to play like so easily, you know. And then now to see you guys strong, and I feel like in this season you're in first bloom after a forest fire. And I, as everyone's speaking here, I saw the ashes, they're landing on everybody's heads, and in people's hair, and on our food, and I think there's just a beauty in people who are willing to bloom again after being decimated, and I think that's a gift, and so bless you.
Because of you all, we are semi-normal.
Who's gonna tell him?
Because of you all, like, we're alive. So thank you for carrying our broken hearts, and being with us in this and continuing to 6 years later. Like, right? Like, the cost is high. It sucks. And yet, we truly believe as we continue to honor what is true, we'll continue to feel a liberation and a deeper goodness and connectedness with each other.
To the level that we've grieved is the level that we've actually found laughter. To play, that was our choice after death.
There's nothing you can say to take away what we thought then.
The hardest thing after you bury something and something so important is just to have pleasure, even just to be naive again, to dance again, to sing again. I think I'm just aware I see brave moments in anybody who chooses to keep creating after they've buried.
To see it through. Who needs someone like you needed, like we all do? Go find somebody to see